How is everybody doing? Welcome back. Week 8, college football countdown. Reginald, how we doing?
Doing good. We're doing good, man. You called that Coach O getting fired, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's been terrible. I didn't know that. I was reading something before, I think this was yesterday, I was reading this about how he was having like his girlfriend's kids participate in practice. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It seemed like there was a weird culture going on there at LSU, and it was showing on the field. They were terrible ever since they won the championship.
100%.
They weren't terrible last week though, but
Yeah.
yeah.
We kids looking crazy. We got some good lineups.
Yeah. We'll get into it. And speaking of, we'll start with not the greatest game, but Michigan. See, I think this is an interesting spot here for Michigan as they play Northwestern because next week they've got Michigan State, which we all know that's a huge game for them. And their last game was against Nebraska, which was also a big game. And right in the middle, they got little old terrible Northwestern. So I feel like this could be a spot where they fall asleep. And I actually like Northwestern plus 23.5. I think they're terrible. Just don't watch a snap of this game. Michigan's going to win, but I like the points.
Yeah, I like Northwestern plus 23. I don't think Michigan is gonna cover 24 points, 24-point lead. I think they're gonna underestimate them and then mess up.
Yeah, and Northwestern won their first game of the season last year. Or not the first game, their first Big Ten game last week.
Yeah. They're
So,
3-3, right?
yeah. But they're not a good team, but this is just, it's more about what's coming. As you know, with college kids, they're not the same team every week. And this is a prime spot for Michigan to not bring their A game. I mean, they're going to win the game. They'll be fine. They'll be undefeated, but I think 23.5 is too much.
Yeah, that's way too much.
So moving on here, sticking in the Big Ten, we've got Purdue, who hosts Wisconsin this week. This is an interesting line to me because Purdue, last week they had one of their biggest wins. You can imagine they beat Iowa, who was ranked number 2 at the time. So you look at that, coming off that win, now they're underdogs at home to Wisconsin. What do you like here?
I like Purdue. I like Purdue to win this actually. It's funny because I know Purdue's not a great team, but they beat Oregon State, right?
And they
And
beat Iowa last
then they
week.
beat Iowa. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, they've got some decent wins for sure. I mean,
Go on.
it's interesting though because Wisconsin's offense is so bad. The fact that Wisconsin's favored here makes it me want to take Wisconsin because it feels like one of those weird lines that that's the only thing you can do with it. I would never trust the Wisconsin offense is so bad, but I think you have to take Wisconsin here. Purdue coming off, it could be a letdown spot for them. They had one of their biggest, as we said, one of their biggest wins of the season last week. I don't know. I like Wisconsin here.
I like Purdue here. I'll take them.
I can see why you say that. I mean, I think Purdue's a better team, and they're at home. But for that reason, I don't know why they'd be.
Why? Yeah, I don't know why they're the underdogs. Do they have any key injuries?
I don't. Not that I know of. I mean, that's just the way I'm a very cautious gambler in this way. That like when I've got my red flags up and this feels like a trap, I'm gonna take Wisconsin.
I'm
But
taking Purdue.
and speaking of traps, this one
Oh,
as big a trap as you can imagine. You have undefeated Oklahoma State. They're ranked in the top 10. They just had a huge win last week. They beat Texas on the road. They go on the road again, but now they're 7-point underdogs to an unranked, Iowa State team that's okay, I guess.
what's that about? I mean, they're going on the road, right? Oklahoma
Yeah.
State's going on the road.
Yeah.
But I don't why they I don't see them losing to Iowa State, man.
I mean, they're 7-point underdogs. Like,
Yeah, but
I
at the
think
same time,
they can very easily lose this game. I mean, there's something about with betting college sports in general. I always just like to have my radars up for stuff like this. And if everyone's hopping on Oklahoma State, guess what? I'll be on the other side.
Yeah.
And if I lose, I lose. But it just feels way too easy to take Oklahoma State to so last week's game, Oklahoma State beat Texas, right? Mm-hmm. That game, even though they dominated the second half, they could have very easily lost that game. And if they lose that game, no one's batting an eye at them being 7-point underdogs to Iowa State. So I don't know. I like Iowa State in this spot. I wouldn't bet it, but it's just in terms of looking at that line, it just looks so fishy that I would take Iowa State.
Yeah. Also, Oklahoma State hasn't really played anybody that good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, so they played Texas. Texas last week was probably the best team they've played all year. Yeah. But other than that, like you said, they played nobody. I mean, they beat Baylor, and I think they beat Boise State. Who Boise State
usually by one.
Yeah, and Boise State's not a good team this year. Like they're usually a very good mid-major, but this year's a down year for Boise State. So you can't put much into that win, but we'll see. I mean, that's why they play the games. Very interesting. Feels like they know something we don't. Again, here it continues the trend. So we've got 3 straight games here where it's a ranked team that is an underdog to an unranked team. So we had Purdue, who's ranked. They're underdogs to Wisconsin. We had Oklahoma State is ranked in the top 10. They're 7-point underdogs, which is crazy. And we have Oregon, who's right around the top 10, and they're underdogs to unranked UCLA. What do you like here?
I don't know why, but I like UCLA a lot here.
I actually already bet UCLA.
Yeah, I'll take UCLA on the money line.
Yeah. So my reasoning here, I don't think Oregon's that good of a team.
Same.
They beat Ohio State, which great win, everything. Can't take anything away from that. Since then, their offense is just so bad. Like there's a theme like of teams in the top 10 this year. You look at Iowa, Oklahoma State, Oregon, these teams that are ranked in the top 10 that just can't move the ball. And eventually that's going to get you. And this just feels like the spot here.
Also, Oregon hasn't really played. Oh, they beat Ohio State and Arizona, but I don't know if they're Oregon. I like UCLA more. I don't know why. Yeah,
and I also think UCLA is a pretty good team. I mean,
I do too.
So
both those teams beat Arizona. So
Arizona stinks.
Yeah, Arizona.
UCLA. I don't know what year this is with Chip Kelly. It's got to be like right around 4 or 5, but starting to figure it out a little bit. I still don't think. I mean, the other thing is the Pac-12 is so bad that like I feel like all of these teams are kind of similar, and I'll just take UCLA at home here, I guess.
Yeah, me too. I'll take UCLA at home because they did beat LSU like fairly well. So
yeah,
even though LSU's not good, but
Yeah, but they still took care of business. That's an SEC win, so we'll see. I mean, moving on here, we've got this is the LSU Tigers. I mean, Coach O gets fired or whatever. He'll coach till the end of the year. We've been saying that for weeks now that Coach O is a dead duck. It was only a matter of time before he goes. But we got them traveling to Ole Miss. Ole Miss coming off one of the craziest games of the year where someone threw a golf ball at Lane Kiffin. What do you like here?
I like Ole Miss. 100% I like Ole Miss. And I actually might take this spread.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's a home game, right, for Ole Miss?
Yeah, Ole Miss at home.
Yeah, it's at Ole Miss at home. LSU's coming off that. They won. LSU came off a Florida victory, but, I mean, I don't know. LSU Coach O, I feel like the whole team spirit's down. They talked about too much. Plus, they're not home.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And also, this is they're retiring Eli Manning's number on Saturday. Ole Miss is, and Arch Manning, Eli's nephew, who's the number 1 player in the country next year. He's visiting Ole Miss this week. So extra reason for Lane Kiffin to pull out a few extra stops. The one thing I will say is that this line It opened at like 10.5, and it's continued to go down ever since, which does concern me a little bit. Maybe back off of Ole Miss and not go huge on them. But I think the play here is Ole Miss laying the number.
And I'll tell you why I'm also going to take Ole Miss. I don't know if you watched them versus Florida, but okay, Florida has this thing going on where they keep starting Emory, and he's absolute dog water. He's not good. We have a great QB, Anthony Richardson. They start Emory. We're down, I think 21 or something almost something like that. Anthony Richardson comes in, 2 quick TDs. He throws them. And this has been happening throughout the whole year. But I don't know why Dan the Man is not just going to let Anthony Richardson play. And I don't know. And I feel like a team that, like a good Florida team that had Anthony Richardson starting would have beat LSU. So, and I think, in all honesty, Ole Miss is way better than Florida. So,
yeah,
I like Ole Miss to take this spread.
So I think what you're talking about speaks to like a bigger issue in college football, that with how like transferring is working right now, a lot of these coaches have to be careful with how they manage their quarterbacks, because a lot of them, they only have like 2 quarterbacks on their roster, and they can't afford for one to just go leave and transfer. So they're being very careful with how they if like with Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma, like how they benched him. They're being very careful and like making him always seem like he's still involved, even though the ultimate goal is obviously to keep him. And that's just the reality, that they need quarterbacks on their roster, and if they treat one a certain way, they're just afraid that other kid's just going to go start at Nevada or something. So I don't know. It's interesting, but
and I get what you're saying, but at the same time, this coach is putting his job at risk. So,
that's true.
Yeah, but they suck right now. Like losing to LSU was ridiculous.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, moving on here. This game's interesting. What if I told you this is the first time in the last 5 years that Clemson's been an underdog to an ACC team?
Oh my gosh. Ooh.
Yep. And I think Clemson's terrible. Don't get me wrong. They are not good. Their offense stinks. They are not a good football team. And Pitt's had been very explosive, moving the ball most of the year. So eye test says Pitt would be the play here. But I just think you get so few opportunities to bet on Clemson as an underdog. I feel like you have to do it.
That's exactly what I was going to tell you. I actually like the fact that Clemson's the underdog here. I don't know. I think Clemson is bad, but at the same time, they have these moments where, they do show that, they're still Clemson. Like when they play Georgia, it was a low scoring game, but also it's not easy to hold Georgia's offense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if you took the logos off and you just said which team is more talented, I mean, Clemson's got a way more talented team than Pitt. But I think logic. If you asked me before the lines came out, I would probably make Pitt about 3.5 point favorite. But with that being said, you have to take Clemson, because they won't be an underdog anytime soon. And if they win this, if you take Pitt and Clemson goes up 14-0, you'll feel like the biggest idiot of all time. I'll happily lose if Pitt goes and wins this game, but you can't bet against Clemson if they're not.
Don't do that, especially if they're the underdog.
Yeah, you can't do it. You cannot do it. I mean, we'll see though. That's why they play the game. There's a reason they're underdogs. They stink. Dabo Sweeney's been rumored to maybe take the LSU job. We'll see. But moving on here. So this is classic uniform game. I mean, if you love college football, we talk about Texas, Oklahoma. We talk about all these games. It's not as big as like a rivalry game, but just in terms of when you think of college football, these are two of probably the first 5 teams you think of are USC and Notre Dame. And they're playing on Saturday, and Notre Dame 7-point favorites at home. So I'll start on this one. I like Notre Dame here, laying minus the 7 too. USC came in with big expectations. Obviously, they made a change at head coach. I still don't think Notre Dame's that good of a team. I mean, there's been plenty of times they really should have lost to Virginia Tech their last time out. They got they lost to Cincinnati, who I still don't buy that into Cincinnati as much. Notre Dame's gotten by playing against some pretty mediocre teams and some mediocre performances, but it just seems that at home at night against USC, they'll get it right. And USC is kind of in shambles with their coaching situation. I'd rather bet on Brian Kelly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to tell you. I don't think Brian Kelly is going to lose to and I get what you were saying about the whole like Notre Dame not playing like mediocre challenges, but USC is playing mediocre people too, and they've
At
lost.
least they're like 3-3. Yeah.
So I don't know. Even if this spread was 14, I'd probably take it. And they're at home. It's Notre Dame. Like they're not losing to USC. They're just not good.
The one thing that does scare me is when these teams play, that does seem to be close pretty much every time.
Yeah.
But I'll take Notre Dame. It is weird that they're also playing this game. I could be wrong about this, but I feel like this game's always like Thanksgiving weekend. Am I wrong about that?
No, I think it is Thanksgiving. Let me see.
Because I feel like in past years it's been like
Alabama
and Auburn in the morning, and then at night Notre Dame and USC. But could be wrong. That's just my view. They didn't play last year. I know that, but
I like Notre Dame on the spread here.
Okay, so here we got our last game of our rundown. We've got the Miami Hurricanes hosting the North Carolina State Wolfpack, and someone I am a current student at Miami. The team stinks. Everyone knows they stink. But I do think they win this game. NC State, I don't know. I just don't like them as a team. We talked about they're getting a lot off of that one Clemson win. Miami. So Derek King went down with injury pretty recent, and the second game of the season, and since then it's been Tyler Van Dyke starting at quarterback, the redshirt freshman. I don't know. He's redshirted like 4 times, and he's been growing over the past couple weeks. And it feels like this is a culmination, a good spot at home at night against a ranked team that he shows up with his best performance, especially getting 3.5 points. I think you got to take Miami here.
I got to take NC State. I don't know, man. It just seems like a fairy tale for Miami with the way they've been playing, honestly. Like, I don't.
Yeah, but even there, so they lost to Bama, which who cares?
Yeah, that's everybody.
Then their other losses have all been close. Like, they've really rarely been outmatched, especially in the ACC. Like a lot of these,
they lost 38-17.
Yeah, that game was a lot. Like the final score was 38-17. I know, but like the game itself was close until the end. The Michigan State scored like 2 late touchdowns. It's just like these ACC teams are so similar to each other. Like there's no one in the ACC that's that good. And it feels like I think every team in the ACC is going to lose at some point, and this just feels like a good spot for NC State to drop one.
I don't think so. NC State has been consistent with their scoring is one thing I'll say. They've been putting up high numbers, and I don't think Miami has a great offense or defense. So I'm trying to match what they'll take the advantage in if they did decide to come victorious, and I don't really see them being better than NC State in anything, really.
Let me do a quick. I don't know NC State's schedule that well. Okay, so they have this one, and they play home against Louisville. They'll win that. Then they play at Florida State. They'll win that.
Yeah.
And then they play at Wake's, home Syracuse, home. Like this just feels like the spot where they lose. I don't know. I could be wrong. Who knows?
I say if they're gonna lose, it's probably gonna be against Wake.
I don't know. I've never really bought into Wake that much. Whatever. Yeah, that's why they play their games. We'll see.
We will see. But give me NC State here.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all we got today. Hopefully it's a great week. Another week with kind of there's no standout games. Hopefully let's check out next week. Hopefully there's something on deck next week that we can look forward to. Auburn plays Ole Miss. Oh, next week we got Penn State, Ohio State. That should be interesting. So I don't know, more reason to look forward to next week.
Next week, I'm gonna be emotionally unavailable because what Georgia is about to do to us.
Oh, I forgot that's next week too. Oh goodness.
That's not gonna be a fun game, but I know it's gonna be. I feel like we're gonna fight, and I don't know. We're gonna shock
Yeah,
you.
no, I feel like so Georgia's obviously great and everything.
It's a big rivalry.
Yeah. But Georgia, like, they're great and everything, but I feel like if when they play Florida, like, they're not gonna like Florida isn't gonna be able to move the ball against Georgia. I mean, they're not gonna score much because Georgia's defense is unbelievable, but like that feels like it's gonna be a close game. And because Georgia's offense isn't like crazy explosive. Like that feels like a game that Florida can hang around in, and then you never know. Number one team gets a little tight, maybe they squeak one out. But we're still in week 8. Let's get through week 8 before we talk about week 9. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. So with that being said, it's a good show today, Reginald. Hopefully our picks turn out good. And see you next week.
All right. See you next week.